If you could speak with a filmmaker for 5 minutes before they buy a camera, what would you tell them?
Oh, I do this every day, so I do this all the time. I would say that it's really important to choose what's right for you and not what other people have told you you should get. And I know that that may sound counterintuitive. You have to, I'll give you some examples. I have people who come into the shop all the time who say, I heard about this really expensive camera. I want to buy this camera. This is the camera for me. And then we say, okay, that's great. I'm glad that this is a wonderful, expensive camera. I'm happy to sell it to you. Tell me about the work that you're doing. Tell me about what it is that you're doing. And in the course of that 5-minute conversation, we quite often discover that just because they have heard about this camera and they believe it's the right camera for them, it may not actually be the best fit. So we actually will spend a little bit of time saying, this camera records in RAW. RAW does not sound like something you're going to do. And, had you considered this? And we'll start to kind of break down and determine what is really the best fit for them and say, hey, we'll sell you whatever you want. But based on what you're saying, I think that you actually might want to consider something else. And here's why. We will talk ourselves out of very expensive camera sales every single day. And that's probably not the best business model. A lot of other camera shops, they don't care what you buy. They don't care. All they care about is that you buy from them. So they want to be able to offer everything. If they can offer you everything, there's a better chance that they have what you think it is that you want. But my experience is that people who buy what their first impulse is, or buy what they heard someone else say, or when they watch 30 hours of YouTube videos, is that they're buying something that they've believed the hype on, and it's not necessarily what's truly best for them. And I think that you have to talk to someone who understands you, what it is that you're doing, to really get to that point. And that's why I think a lot of cameras get sold in the used market, or why people try to return items, is because they bought something that wasn't actually the right fit. Likewise, we also sometimes get people who want to buy something that is way under what it is that they do. And quite often, usually, it's just an issue of money. But there are ways actually to buy something if you don't have the money using credit, and you can do that in a very intelligent and professional way that allows you to get what you want without totally, going into bankruptcy or breaking the bank.
There's like a layaway type
There
option?
are definitely some different options out there. Usually, if it's not through a equipment leasing company, people can do it from credit cards. And we do have some people who sometimes split payments up between credit cards. And also there are special teaser rates that people can get to where they don't pay any financing, or they're able to defer some payments. So there's a lot of ways to get there. These did not exist back when I was coming up, when I was in film school. You had to have $50,000 to $100,000 to just get your foot in the door. And I knew nothing about finance. So had I known what I know now then, I wouldn't have spent years on the sideline. I would have bought equipment sooner. Equipment ownership can be a way to having some passive income. It can be a way to making you more desirable to certain producers. It can also be a way for you to master your craft faster, sooner, being able to become more experienced in technology. But these are big steps, and you have to have a certain amount of confidence and a certain amount of understanding that this is really something that you want to move into. And having appropriate professionals who can be a sounding board, who can get into this with you, is something that my company offers that a lot of other companies don't. Because, like I said, a lot of companies just want to make sure that they capture your sale. We're actually trying to have long-term relationships with our clients. We want them to come back to us forever. So the one sale has never been as important to us as having a customer for a lifetime, having them for many years. And we have a lot of clients who have been working with us since I was in that tiny little office all those years ago.
Yeah, it seems like you're very detail-oriented when it comes to replying to people on social media. I mean, like, you really go above and beyond just from the little that I scanned. And so I think that's valuable, just because there's an element of teaching that goes along with buying a camera from you.
I'll let you know a little secret. That's not always me. So even though sometimes it says my name on it, sometimes there are other people.
You have a ghostwriter. Okay.
Yes, quite often it is me, but I have never set out to be really the face of the company. 15 years in now, this is like one of the only interviews I've ever done. And it was done that way on purpose. I've always felt that hot rod cameras could be much bigger than just one person. And so I spend a lot of time on education. I spend a lot of time with my team to make sure that they're very, very knowledgeable. I do my best to pour knowledge into them so that in some ways I'm replaceable. My company can exist completely without me, and people can be good stewards of the community. We have many communities that we're involved with on Facebook and other places on the internet, and I want to make sure that there is a no-nonsense, competent voice of reason that can get interjected into a lot of these sort of heated conversations about nothing. So,
you know, it's interesting you bring that up because I'm reading the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, I believe, and he said that a lot of companies that rely on the face of the company, which is the genius behind it, can often fail once the genius steps down or goes to the side, and so that it's better to actually not have that as the face of the brand.
Yeah, I've never been the face. So the fact that we're 15 years in now means that I'm doing something right, because in the very early days, the first year for sure, it was all on my shoulders, and probably even for year 2 and 3. But the last 12 years, really, I've sort of been behind the scenes and really not tried to be out in front, and it seems to be working okay.
When should a filmmaker buy a camera, and when should a filmmaker rent one?
I would love to say that there's some hard and fast rules for that. And when I worked in rentals, I think I had a slightly different opinion than I have now working in sales, and it's because I have more perspective. But there's a couple of really easy decisions on when the appropriate time is to buy a camera, but it's more nuanced in that if you're going to be shooting a long-term project, documentary people in particular should probably be owning their equipment just because of the expense that's involved in renting. It's not always 100% of the time the best decision, but if you look at just what the cost is over the long term for your documentary project, almost always it makes more financial sense to buy some equipment. Maybe not all the equipment, maybe not a set of exotic lenses, but there's a very good business case to be made for owning equipment. If you need to have the absolute best stuff that exists, or you need to have something that's very specific and exotic, renting is almost always the right choice, especially for sort of independents out there or people who are working with modest budgets. If money's no object, of course, you can afford to own everything, but I really think that depending on your project and how long you're working, rental sometimes is the best choice.